I asked in advance the panelists to think about two things, right? And we'll start with the first one, recognizing that when the topic is about implementing change, I can't think of anything more challenging in higher education than implementing change. Right. So this is a challenging topic. So before the session, I asked each of our guests, our panelists, to reflect on their experience and to be prepared to describe one challenge that they've experienced in this transformation to make their business schools focus more on sustainability, but then how their school has addressed this challenge. And again, we have a diverse set of schools here. I hope that we'll be able to touch on a variety of challenges throughout this experience. But again, please don't hesitate to ask questions along the way. So we're going to go in order here, and I'm going to ask Exequiel from Peru, which I will be in a couple of weeks in Peru. Looking forward to that trip very much, Exequiel. Why don't you start us off? Tell us about that challenge and how the school has been addressing it.
Well, thank you very much, Adam, and hello, everyone. Let me begin by saying last year we started doing our strategic planning, the update, and we work on the social progress report, and we took it as a framework, and we saw that in Peru, the lower scores were in inclusion and access to quality education. So we decided as a business school to start focusing on quality and bringing access to quality education to underserved populations. So last year, we have about 9 different initiatives to address this situation. But this year, as moving forward, we are going for around our 33rd initiatives, and they are all going in parallel. So the main challenge that we have is how to get enough volunteers to teach in those initiatives. Traditionally, we have been doing it through faculty and a few number of students. So this year, we have to recruit more. So what we're doing, we're start extending alliances between different offices within the school. For example, the co-curricular activities offices join us, and they bring some students, and we also join with the alumni office that they provide them us with our alumni. And finally, something that we took from the working sessions from the positive impact rating meetings was why we don't do a sustainability club. In that way, we're going to have students to be more involved, students to lead some initiatives. So we are about to launch that, I think, in about a month or a couple of months at most.
That's a great start, Exequiel. The idea of, I think many of us share, is getting people to volunteer and step up to do this kind of work. But then this idea that came from the working group of setting up the student group in a way that facilitates this is a great start. Thank you so much. I want to turn to Danette from Iowa, right? Did I get that right? Drake is based in Iowa. Yes. I guess pretty central in the United States. Thanks for joining us so early.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My pleasure. Glad to be here and to see everyone. We started, just to give a little bit of context, we used the feedback from students from our first round of PIR that we did in 2023 to help us decide our focal areas. I think Thomas mentioned at the beginning, AACSB now asks schools to have societal impact focus areas. So we did some work to build off that. And then this last year, we were working on how do we actually implement those. So you decide on your focal area, but then you have to make action happen. Exequiel talked about volunteers, and that certainly, is always a challenge when you're trying to create change, is how do you get people engaged? I think the one thing that I would add to that and it seems straightforward, but communication. So we had students that were excited, a couple of students that we use as point people for our work and societal impact. And they would start talking about it, and they were excited and enthusiastic. But then how do we engage more broadly with faculty and staff and make sure we're all hearing and understanding what we're talking about? And I'm sure we've all experienced that, where you go to one meeting and you think you have everybody on board and on the same page and moving in the same direction. And then 2 days later, you're talking to someone and they're like, no, I don't recall hearing anything about that. And so one of it, and we don't have a large school. We don't have, several hundred faculty and staff. So part of what we try to do is just create an ongoing loop of discussion. And I realized it was as simple as we're housed in a building, moving from my administrative floor to the faculty floor, to engaging students, working with our students to create that conversation, and making sure that we were on the same page as we talked about it. And I think, as I talk and reflect on the working group and the activities, that was something that was really helpful from conversations, is hearing what were different methods people used to create that common conversation and the common language around what you're doing, so everybody can start kind of focusing in on those activities and creating common workflows.
Amazing, Danette. One thing that we've learned about transformative change, the kind of change that really makes a difference, is this constant communication. And thanks for sharing that, how you've dealt with this challenge at Drake University. We're going to move now to Norway, right? It's, like I said, very diverse. So we're going from Iowa to Norway. And Kristin, what a pleasure to see you. We're always looking forward to working with BI as other schools. And tell us about your challenge and how you've dealt with it.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear Exequiel and Danette, because it's probably some of the same challenge that I wanted to highlight here. We have a large undertaking on curriculum transformation, and we're part of this group, Curriculum Change Now, in the PIR. We found it's not the challenge of actually redesigning the courses themselves or maybe onboard businesses, but it's onboarding faculty. So we're overlapping to the two previous speakers. So engaging and empowering our faculty to embed and implement the changes in their academic field and in their courses is what I would call the hardest job, but it's the most important job. So making faculty understand how sustainability hits or affects or influences their academic field, and build their confidence to teach is a core thing that we see as something, that an obstacle we have to overcome. And we have done some actions, of course, to overcome that. And there are 4 things I would like to highlight here. That from this easy saddlebag of voluntarily elective courses, to have an institution-wide strategic approach to curriculum integration. So we had a large strategic project of changing the whole bachelor curriculum for everything, all the programs, and then a strategic project driven by the top with clear expectations. That has been one thing. And then to transform compulsory courses, and a set of them, like 6 to 8 courses, and then have one new compulsory capstone course. And in that transformation, and then onboard dedicated faculty who want to own those transformation and say yes to doing that transformational change. That has been critical, to have this volunteer but very highly steered change. And giving those course owners the freedom or capacity and time and space to develop and redesign re-understand how the academic field is evolving and develop new curriculum, pedagogics, assessment styles for that course. So we had what I call nudging seminars as a third pillar to in a nice way discuss, reflect, inspire faculty, not normative, but an open-minded discussion, showing best practices and having them have reflective discussions. And I think some of my colleagues here have been part in that. It's also part of this the webinar. That's been an important tool for us. And then these dedicated course owners who said, yes, I want to own this and I want to do this. And then we hope to also spread like it drizzles through on the rest of faculty when we have a set of critical mass of faculty doing these steered changes. So that's one area that we're working on.
Thank you for that. And Kristin, we went from Danette, who I think you emphasized you're not huge, right, as an institution, but and Kristin, I think it's fair to describe BI as big, right? It's right. So you have a very large faculty to address, right? How many faculty members?
Almost 500 faculty, and we have 4 campuses, 6,000 bachelor students every year full time. So in a small country in Norway, we have 45% market share, and we're huge, yeah. So that's the full-time segment. So it's not a small undertaking to reform the whole bachelor program, no, and it's a long timeline. We started in 2019, and the last fall we launched the whole new set of courses to the first year bachelors. So it takes 3 years to roll out the full implementation because we take year by year. So yeah.
Thanks for that. I wanted to emphasize.
Yeah, thank you.
I wanted to emphasize that diversity, but the commonality, right, in terms of the challenge, is important to note as that thread. But we want to move to ISCTE in Portugal. Please, Ana Lucia, welcome. And what was your biggest challenge, or the one that you'd like to share with us?
Well, good afternoon. For me, it's afternoon. Everyone, and many challenges that every business school can engage. In our specific case, ISCTE Business School, engaging with people is always, we recognize it's always a challenge. And the engagement initiatives, we need to have the same language as the target group. Otherwise, the message will not be received. And this might be the biggest challenge we have to face. Everything currently is fast. And for instance, the younger generations, they are consuming everything in a very fast way. Things need to be sharp and very straightforward. And we need to adjust the way we communicate to address this challenge. The generations, they react to meaningful messages, short ones and very meaningful. So reaching the target with the appropriate language and the appropriate initiatives might be the most challenging part of this transformation journey. How are we, ISCTE Business School, addressing it? Well, ISCTE Business School, as other schools and every school, is part of a wider community. And initiatives for the community actually need to be developed with the community. To bring this to practice, ISCTE Business School is partnering with many different entities, organizations, with individuals, and they can be vehicles of change and promote more impactful change with us. We are using them as vehicles of change. Just as an example, we partner with local and international companies. We partner with the Lisbon municipality, where we are located in Lisbon, with student organizations. We have open calls for individual volunteers for different initiatives. For instance, sensitizing the local community on the relevance of recycling old clothes. So bringing these partners to work with us in communicating and engaging the wider community is, in fact, one way to address this challenge of reaching the target groups in a more effective way.
I like that cross-sectoral initiative that helps you address these communication challenges as you go. Thanks for sharing that. Bangalore, the hustling, bustling city of Bangalore. Sourav, welcome. Tell us about your challenge.
Well, so 2 years ago, so ours is a postgraduate school, so we only have MBA students. And every 3 years, we do a curriculum review, taking feedback from a large number of stakeholders. And 2 years ago, when we did the last review, sustainability became a very strong feedback to us, saying that you must integrate courses on sustainability to prepare the future generation of leaders. So all of us understood that it needs to be done. But the biggest challenge that became was that, so we said that, well, sustainability, while it is being taught as an elective in the second year, we need to bring that within the core curriculum. Everybody agreed with that. But the challenge became that our school also had decided that the total number of courses in the first year should not increase, which means that if you bring in a course on sustainability, then something has to go out. And that is where the biggest challenge was, that whom do we convince to teach less? Which area do we convince that your course has to go out to make way for sustainability? So all of you coming from academic institutions would understand that's a big challenge. So we kind of did a middle ground. We said, well, if we can't create a new course in, then let all of us bring in sustainability into the courses that we are already teaching. So marketing will teach, organization behavior will teach, and we agreed on that about a year back. But what we realized after 1 year was that that was not happening, in the sense that not much was changing. Now, that data helped us this year, because when we went and collected data, we found that not many courses have been able to bring in enough sustainability into the curriculum. And then we said that, well, folks, 1 year we tried, it did not happen. So now let us do something about it. And so we said, well, sustainability course comes in as a core course. But again, to make a little bit of adjustment, we said, let us introduce a core course in the second year. So now that is a big deal, because we never had a core course in the second year of the curriculum. And we said, no, let us introduce it as an experimental basis, at least, see the impact, take the student feedback. And if it goes well, then we will continue with it. So that is where we are, having had a small victory, but we are keeping our fingers crossed that we should be able to make the sustainable course sustainable.
Well, all the best wishes to you, understanding that the process of changing the curriculum is a political one, right, and not much of an academic one or an economics one in some ways. So congratulations on your progress so far and what you've learned, and we do hope it works out. I think we're going to come back to some of the curriculum questions as we go, but let's turn our attention to Stefano from the UK at Exeter, where I know you've been doing a great job with climate. But tell us about your challenge.
Thank you, Dan. It's been a pleasure being here. Thanks for inviting us. I'll connect the challenge with my experience in the working group. So mostly around how you develop partnerships or discontinue partnerships. And any business school, but our business school particularly, is really immersed into a multi-stakeholder environment, really. So we have been pioneering partnership with the WWF a decade ago. Now we're partnering with other organizations. And I consider the involvement with PIR, for example, or Prime, also a form of partnership, obviously. So it really is multi-layered and multi-actored, we shall say, right? Now, what's the challenge? Because you would like to develop, and I think that was the theme of our engagement around ethical, like-minded organizations, right? In selecting the organizations you're partnering with, you may also want to be careful in engaging with students which are the organizations you are offering them to partnering with, right? You facilitating as a business school this networking. So long story short, the challenge is around the tension that we observe between certain type of organizations, particularly large employers, let's call them multinational corporates, right? That those are desirable partners for some students, many students perhaps, but they may come with a baggage of difficult values or practices. And at the same time, you want to celebrate all sorts of other businesses and organizations, and that's a tension that is very difficult to navigate. So having said that, what we're trying to do is to become more open and way more aware about this tension.
Yeah, this is one of those things that I think we felt quite a bit more of 10 years ago, and hopefully we'll feel quite a bit less of 10 years from now. But quite real, isn't it, Stefano? Thanks for bringing this tension up. That students, in many ways, start the process with as idealists, right? They think they're going to change the world, but then sometimes reality sits in, and we begin to think about how do we just get that first job, and not
or
always the values match, right?
Or the opposite. Gen Z, if I can bring in a generational consideration, does value things in a different way. So we shouldn't assume the idealist approach when it comes to sustainability. Actually, could be the opposite, very pragmatic. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, thanks for pointing that out, Stefano. Very, very good. Nicole in Nairobi. I'm sorry you're going last in our lineup, because it's certainly not the least. Strathmore is a great school based in Nairobi. Love to hear your challenge.
Yes, so I've listened to all the other panelists' challenges, and it's very interesting that I can quite relate to what Kristin and Stefano, actually, and Sourav have mentioned about the curriculum, but I decided to go with a different challenge, the main one that is especially in relation to sustainability. So for us in our school in Strathmore, yes, the business school might be the largest, but we share resources, facilities with all the other schools. So we have about 6 different schools. So we have the School of Mathematics and Sciences, Engineering, Computing, and we also have the School of Mathematics, School of Accountancy, and the School of Hospitality. So you'll find for us that whatever initiative that one school comes up with, even if it's in relation with sustainability, you find that the whole entire student body is still affected, regardless of whether or not they belong with the business school. So one thing that we had been discussing, even with Dr. Mumbi, who's the lead basically in our school, and I work with her, is that how can we also incorporate the other schools? But yes, the business school can lead in these initiatives of including sustainability, but we can also incorporate everyone else, because we are still sharing everything that we have at the moment, from classes to lecturers. Most of the things are actually shared. So one of the things was including students who actually have sustainable related initiatives. For instance, one of them is our alumni. He's going to graduate this year in June 28th, basically next week. He has an initiative where he goes around collecting trash, so basically waste reduction in the streets, especially around the Nairobi city. Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now? Sorry, somebody has mentioned that you couldn't hear me. Okay. Yes. So he collects trash. So his aim is mainly making sure that the streets of Nairobi are clean. And this student, yes, is in the business school. However, one of the students that we have also added into this initiative, she's in the School of Humanities and she's studying development studies, which this course mainly focuses on sustainable initiatives and also development in terms of Africa-related kind of issues. So her name is Samita. So this is one challenge that we have had, especially, yes, our PIR, even the ratings itself, we went specifically to business students, but you find that there are other students from other different schools who would love to be incorporated into the movement itself, and because we end up sharing these initiatives and everything. even something so small that was introduced recently, which was last year. We have this initiative where there's no plastics in schools food anymore. So you have to carry your own water bottle to get water. You can only use glassware, and also recyclable materials can only be used to purchase food materials and food specifically in the student center. So yes, so this is something that we have been discussing, and we're seeing ways in which we can try and play around with the positive impact rating for business schools. So yes.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Nicole. I saw in the chat that some people are having a little trouble hearing your voice clearly.
Yeah.
So perhaps in the interim, you might be able to find an alternative audio solution. But we'll come back to you. Thanks so much, Nicole. That several challenges highlighted here. Everything from how do we get everyone, faculty and students, on the same page to addressing these tensions that we continue to experience between the employment prospects and the expectations of students and faculty, to getting all of engaging, leading across different units on campus. Thanks for sharing that, Nicole. And the perennial challenge of there's too little room in a curriculum for us to make changes in sort of a realistic way without taking something away from someone. And I always like to say that with the questions regarding sustainability, we're still at that stage where we're wondering, is it a course or is it integrated throughout the curriculum? And we'll perhaps comment on that as we go. But I asked each of the panelists to think about a second question. We want to get through this very quickly, maybe just take a couple of minutes each to address the second question. And that is, during this process, the working group process, which I admire very much, the idea was to come up with prototypes, and each one of your schools was engaged in developing a prototype. And I wonder if you could just share quickly the nature of that prototype and, in particular, what issue or opportunity does it address? But then how is it going? I presume the idea with the prototype is like a pilot of some sort, where you put it out there, get it started, but you're learning. So tell us what you're learning about this. Is it working? How do you think you're going to adapt? Exequiel, we'll start again with you, and let's move pretty quickly so that we can get through this within the 10 minutes that we have left. Thanks, Exequiel.
Oh, thank you, Dan. Well, yeah, we decided to work on mental health. Why? Because first of all, we thought being able to take part of this working session was a great opportunity to get ideas and develop something that we haven't been addressing before. And mental health became for us very important after the pandemic, since Peru was one of the countries with the longest lockdown in the world. We were on lockdown for over 2 years and a half. So, for example, the staff at Centrum, we returned back to work in June last year. So we were used to working from home, being with our families. So we decided that it was really important to address mental health, not only for the staff and the faculty, but also for the students. So with the help of Danette, of Anna, from the different members, we start discussing different ideas how to do it. And at Centrum, we started to address this in 3 stages. First, through different communication campaigns, through social networks, through the internet, through emails for the staff and for students. Then we start developing different spaces so students and staff can meditate. We have once or twice a week now a specific space in which we can go and relax and meditate, which is guided by a professional. And then we also start involving more the community and doing different activities such trekking, such exercises, things that before, and especially since, as I mentioned before, we are a part-time student school, during the daytime, our school is empty. All our students come around 7 p.m. when they are done with work. So we have to find an interactive way of addressing that. And so far, is going well. We keep working. As you mentioned, that is still a prototype. It's still a work in progress, but we are very pleased with the results that so far we're seeing.
Thanks, Exequiel. I'm looking around the room and I can tell there are many people anxious to learn what you're learning, because we all need to address these kinds of issues in our schools more thoughtfully. Thank you for that. Then Danette.
Yes, thank you. So we had, as I had mentioned earlier, we had developed focus areas for some of our societal impact work and what we were looking at. And we identified 3 areas of focus. One, understanding financial inclusion and how we can use our expertise in the college to communicate, help develop programs, understand what it means for our students, but also in the community. We're looking at first-generation students and understanding the idea of social mobility through education, but how do you create access for students who maybe don't come from a background where they've had higher education. And then the third one was looking at mission-driven businesses, B corporations, organizations that specifically articulate that societal impact and taking part of their profit to contribute to making a difference. So we decided on our focus areas, and we were starting to talk about how we can think about what we do, actually do, moving from idea to action. And we did a Business for Good Summit. And so we brought together a variety of people. It was a one-day mini conference. Our keynote was an individual who heads a bank that is a B corporation bank. So they have, as part of their mission, is societal impact, and they work a lot with unbanked populations, underserved populations from a financial inclusion area. And he spoke about what they're doing and how they meld that societal impact with the profit side of a business, to ensure that they are both profitable and contributing. And so there were a variety of different things that we had. We engaged alumni who spoke about their work that they're doing with B corporations. We had some student panels. So we had this day that came together, and we really wanted to engage faculty, staff, and students, as well as invite external community members. So it was a kind of a big goal. And I think the outcome we did it late in the spring semester, and it was very positive feedback from people, and the opportunity to bring people together across those different groups and think about, how can we complement each other and how can we collaborate? I was really excited at the end of it, because when I stopped to really think about the different people we had drawn together, I had an individual from our career services office who had worked to bring in young alumni for a panel. I had the director of our School of Risk Management who'd helped connect us with our keynote. We, reached out to community members. We had 2 student panels, Changemaker scholars, who talked about the work they're doing in the community. So it was really a lot of fun, and we were joking about it at the end, just to bring all those people together and see it come together. We already have the date set for next spring and are thinking about how we can evolve it, learn from the hiccups we had along the way, because it wasn't an entirely smooth launch for the event. But I think based upon the feedback from both internal and external audiences, it'll be a great way to continue to evolve and develop what we're doing.
Congratulations, Danette, on that. What a great success for your prototype work. And we look forward to our invitations to go to Iowa for this event next year. And Kristin, you commented about Danette in the chat. You're welcome to emphasize that a little bit. But tell us a little bit about your prototype and how you perceive its success so far.
Yeah, I wouldn't exactly call it a prototype since we're doing full-scale transformation of all the bachelor programs.
Yeah.
So it's a large-scale prototype, I would say. It's like a waterfall project. But last year we launched. I can share the economics transformation as one example, because I saw in the chat that they wanted us to be a bit more specific. Last fall, the Economics 101 course was launched for the new bachelor program, and the professor, Dag Morten Dalen, had transformed the whole concept of the course. And day one, they started debating economic growth. Why do we want that? The current models, challenging models, redefining, degrowth, growth, and change the total curriculum to the open source online core e-econ curriculum, which has a lot of faculty from all over the world having co-created a new curriculum. So he has collaborated with, for instance, Los Andes in Colombia. And I saw that he shared, for instance, word clouds on what were the main issues in a Norwegian perspective and in a South American perspective, which was world apart. Equality, the biggest in South America, and I don't remember, but something very different in Norway. I don't even remember. But it was very different. So having global perspectives for the young students to train them to reflect and challenge current models. Because going from optimizing continued economic growth thinking towards more, is this the future we want, or is there some alternatives? To embed its mindset interventions, having different ways of thinking. So this was for 6,000 students, 40 classes, 4 campuses, 30 lecturers. So it was a huge undertaking for each of the course to transform that way of teaching. So as one example, but our goal is to develop more sustainable literate graduates to be able to go out and help transforming societies and businesses. So this was one example of what we are doing, but it's not easy. I mean, we're not doing it easy for ourselves with this full scale. It would be much easier to say that, take an elective on this if you really want it. And this full scale transformation takes time, obviously, and it's a learning by doing process. And gladly, I saw that our PIR 2024 had slightly increase in perceptions of sustainability teaching amongst our bachelor students. So it means that some first-year bachelor students obviously scored us better than last year. So we're on the right path, but it takes really long time. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing process, and this working group has been so inspirational. So thank you.
Thank you. And the metric, it's nice that you have this metric that you're paying attention to as you make this shift. Thanks. And Lucia, your turn, please. And I just wanted to point out, we have been given, I think, if I understood correctly, Katrina, a 5-minute grace period. But nonetheless, we're pushing up against the time frame. We have 8 minutes for 4 of you, I think, to get through this process. Thanks, Ana Lucia. Please, you're muted at the moment.
I am muted. Thank you so much. It has been very inspirational to hear from all these examples that the different panel elements are sharing. I would like to share here one of our initiatives also, and the results we have achieved. One of these initiatives we are developing is promoting financial literacy, entrepreneurial skills among teenagers. I was just a while ago listening to Danette and understanding her concerns about the financial areas, and I was revising our school also on those concerns. We are addressing these issues of financial literacy, entrepreneurial skills with high school students. They are the future. So we need to plant the seed. And the word that I'm using is on purpose. We are doing this initiative with a partnership with the Lisbon municipality in a project called SEED. We want to plant the seed of entrepreneurial skills and financial awareness among the younger generation. The fruits will come, obviously, in the future. Developing these new ideas and bringing them to practice require proper skills, obviously. And at our school, ISCTE Business School, we have the tools that are needed to help these ideas to come alive. If they have ideas of new business, new projects, we have the tools that they can use, and they can understand how to shape these ideas to bring them to life. And these areas are, in fact, in our DNA. Entrepreneurship and financial areas are some of the areas in our core activity. So it made all the sense to give back. And partnering with the Lisbon municipality and with not only with the Lisbon municipality, but also with some students from the finance organization ITIC at ISCTE. So it's ISCTE Trading and Investment Club. These students are super motivated. And we started this initiative with this triangle, ISCTE Business School, ITIC, and Lisbon municipality, still as a pilot. We started last year, the academic year of 22-23. We started small, only as a pilot. At the time, and let me see some numbers, we reached only 93 students. So we were even below 100. But we learned. And this year, academic year 23-24, we expanded. We expanded to 13 public schools in the Lisbon municipality, in a total of 55 cohorts of students, going above 1,100 students reached with this training. So we are very, very pleased with the results.
Amazing.
And these students were obviously also led from a more scientific area. They were coordinated by a faculty from ISCTE Business School, and also all the operational coordination of these initiatives, of this spreading the seed, was conducted by our executive staff, by our staff. So we are using our own resources to give back to the community. Next year, we want obviously to expand. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Anna Lucia. Sourav, please.
Yes.
Yep. I got the order correct.
Yeah,
Thank you, Sourav.
Actually, the course, we still have a little bit of time before we go into the class and start teaching. So we are putting together the course. We are being a bit ambitious. We are saying that faculty members from multiple disciplines will come and teach. So people like me who will talk about strategy, there will be marketing faculty, finance and accounting faculty. And this is the first time we are going to try such a collaborative teaching at IIM Bangalore. And we are currently, our school largely pushes case-based teaching. So we are looking at case studies, we are writing up case studies. There are some, we can start the course tomorrow, but since we have some time, we are looking for more compelling case studies to go into the class. So I think 1 year later, I will be in a much better position to answer your question that how is the prototype working out? As of now, we are still in the designing phase.
That's great. Thank you so much, Sourav. It sounds like we have a bit of a hatchery going around here. So I'm very curious to show up next year to learn more about how these things are going. But Stefano, please, at Exeter.
Sure. Thank you. Back to the challenge of partnerships. So the type of prototype solution we are piloting right now is basically setting up a sort of internal multi-stakeholder governance, if you like, or platform, because partnerships have systemic impact. So if you partner up with someone in one of the departments or areas of the school or university, has got an impact and an effect on another area. So it's beyond just coordinating and communication. It is about strategically govern partnerships. So we are piloting this in the department. I have the honor to manage management, and we'll see if we can learn from it and scale up or out. That's it.
Wow, what an amazing test of anyone's leadership skills, the kind of work that you're trying to do there, Stefano. Thank you for sharing. So why don't we draw the panel to a close? It's been great. And I think the word diversity is the word of the morning. We've had such diverse contributions from the group, but I'm really excited about the prototypes and anxious to hear what this discussion might look like next year. And touching bases on this and doing what we can at PIR and other organizations like GBSN to accelerate the development of some of the new ideas hatched.